What it is, what it do, cyber world. It is your girl, the one, the only Ash Said It. AshSaidIt.com, AshSaidIt.com. Welcome to the Ash Said It Daily Podcast Show. I appreciate you guys for all of your love and support. Over 1,400 episodes and 500,000 streams worldwide. None of this is possible without you guys, so I thank you so very much. And with everything going on in today's world, we're still living that COVID-19 life, a little bit of a quarantine life, but we're going to keep the positivity flowing, all right? We got some good energy in the building today. We've got with us author, motivational speaker, the wonderfully talented Sonia Alleyne. Hey, Sonia.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm doing much better. It was an interesting morning, but that's what life is, right?
That's what it comes down to.
And then you just got to figure out how to keep moving.
That's right.
So that's what we're doing now.
So, Sonia, what part of the country are you holding down right now?
I'm in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
So, so I'm in a part that's heavily influenced by COVID. The numbers are pretty heavy, and even the neighborhood that I live. So Brooklyn is a hot spot, but my neighborhood is also pretty hot. And because I live in a primarily black neighborhood as well, like we've had a lot of energy around the protests and all of the marches against police brutality. And so it's been it's been an intense several months. I mean, for everybody. But sometimes depending on which part of the country you are, the politics of the region affect things differently. And so, so we're managing here, taking care of each other as best we can.
Yeah.
What's interesting, too, is we find that there's more of a sense of community.
Yeah. And
which are some of the good things that have come out of this. But it's been an interesting. It's interesting. It's such an understated word, but it's been an intense several months. But we're managing.
Hey, doing it good. We're getting something under control. We'll hold our breath on that one. But okay, so we're refocusing on you today, my dear. So, when did your journey in writing begin?
It's interesting because we had our brief conversation beforehand, and I wasn't. I actually didn't want to be a writer. I wanted to be a broadcaster. I wanted to. So I'm old enough where I was influenced by Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters was like a major television force, in the 70s and through the 80s. Way before we didn't have any women of color to look at, really. So this is way before Oprah. And so I loved that she interviewed all of these dynamic people and got them to tell their stories. And so I wanted to be a television broadcaster, but I was told by an uncle who I was really close to that I wasn't pretty enough for television. And so it's funny because I've never really talked about this out loud, but it redirected me to print. So I was just like, okay, if I'm not, and so my uncle said that, and then I had a high school teacher, because I was also a full-figured girl, and so I had a high school teacher when I told her what I wanted to do, and she says, well, you would have to lose weight, like you can't go on television at your size.
Wow.
So I had these two strong forces telling me that I wasn't good enough for TV. And so I redirected all of my energy and looked at radio and print. And so I ended up in print. After I graduated from college, I focused on print journalism and did my internships in radio and in print, and got my first job at this tiny little magazine called Class, which stood for Caribbean, Latin, African American Sights and Sounds. And then learned what an editor was, had no idea what an editor really did, but was mentored by this woman, Velma Dorch. I don't know if she knows how much of an influence she was on my life.
Yeah.
And, and became a writer and editor. And fortunately, I was talented in those areas that I could write and edit. And so that's how I ended up in this space. So my original dream. So what's interesting is too, when I ended up working at Black Enterprise, I was kind of thrown into television, and I can't even tell you all of the anxiety I had when I was thrown into that situation, because all I could hear in the back of my head was my uncle's voice. You're not pretty enough for television. So I think even my initial shows, you kind of see like how reserved I was, because I just felt like no one was listening to what I said. Everybody was watching going, how did she get on television? Like, how did she get there? And so, you know, the stories we tell ourselves, right? And how they affect our behavior and our course and our journey. And so we have to be really mindful of the stories that we've allowed from other people to direct our footsteps.
Absolutely.
So,
yes, we do.
Yeah.
But definitely, that's very inspiring to hear that from you, as far as like, you know, these people that were of influence in your life, you know, saying, oh no, you can't because you're this and you don't fit the bill or whatever the case is. But the thing about it, and I think a lot of people forget, is that what's meant for you is for you.
It's for you.
It doesn't matter. Like, people are going to say, girl, if I had listened to people, and when I was initially doing this particular podcast, I've done shows before, but when I was starting this one and people were like, oh, girl, you need to do something else. That ain't going to work out. You doing a show on what you want to, or what you feel like doing, it ain't going to work out. I wouldn't be 1,400 shows later.
Exactly.
500,000 streams, baby. So, you know, what's meant for you is for you. And you're going to shine through. Yeah, you're going to shine through every time. It ain't no question.
Every time. I believe that now.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have evidence of that throughout my life.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
So, okay, so what's the inspiration? What was the inspiration behind I Kick Ass at Work?
So that's an interesting story as well. And so when I interview, when I was working and I was interviewing people for positions or internships, I would always say to them, what do you want your resume and your LinkedIn profile to say when you're gone? Like that, you should always have this end idea in mind when you're interviewing for a job. And so I'd worked for somebody who operated exactly like that. Like he had come into this position and he knew what he wanted to accomplish. And so I was probably 3 or 4 years into this very new position, very new area. So I had to use my current skill set to develop new skill sets in this new position. And it was a really fast-paced environment. And so I was looking at myself and looking at what I was doing 4 years in, and I was beating myself up, and I was saying, like, what have you done? Like what would you say that you've done when you walked away from here? So when you walk away from here. And so I took a few minutes, I was at work, and I started to outline all of the things that I remembered that I had done while I was in this position. And when I finished my list, it was, I think, maybe 2 pages long. I was like, I kick ass at work. So I went from, beating myself up to like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not working up to my potential. I'm going to leave here because it was a political position. So I'm going to leave here soon. And what am I going to say that I did? And when I actually looked at everything that I had done on paper, I impressed myself. Like I was impressed with what I had seen. And so what I realized is in that moment was that that's what we do. And particularly women and women of color. What we do is we work really, really hard because we know the job has to get done and there's going to be another deadline. And we don't, some of it is cultural. But, we don't sit around and pat ourselves on the back and tell ourselves how well we do. We just get the job done. Yeah. And I realized in that moment that it wasn't a healthy way to think about your work life. And so I said, you know what, let me create a journal. But wait a minute, let me not just create a journal. Let me do 2 things. Let me create a journal for women to look at how they operate in the workplace. Because here it was, I was beating myself up. And so why was I beating myself up if I was doing such great work? So let's create a journal where you can actually look at what you're doing at work And then let's also create a space where you can document all of your successes as they happen. Because what I also know is that the further you move away from an accomplishment, the less detail you remember about it. So you may remember that you did this great thing, like you launched this amazing product. And you may remember that it brought in, $10 million. But you may not remember the specifics of it. You may not remember like where that accomplishment landed in the scheme of the business structure. You may not remember, if it was 10 million or 20 million. You may not remember the details of it. And so this was an opportunity to write down your accomplishment as it's happening, so that you know exactly what's going on. And so if you have all of your accomplishments in one place, then it also makes it easier for you to update your resume and your LinkedIn profile, because those should be living documents. What happens is we create our resume for a position. We get the position, and then we never look at it again until somebody has another position for you, or you're frustrated and you're ready to leave your job, and now you're hustling to put together your resume, trying to remember all the things that make you a dynamic professional. And depending on the circumstances, if you ran into someone in the elevator and they said, "Send me your resume tonight," and many of us have had that happen, where somebody says, let me, and what do we say? Oh, give me a couple of days. I'll send it to you in a couple of days, because you don't have anything ready. So my resume is ready. I update it regularly. I update my LinkedIn profile regularly. And so, which is important for people to know too, because the resume right now in this day and time is a little static. So recruiters and people who are interested in knowing more about you are looking at your LinkedIn profile. And particularly for people of color, we spend a lot of time, Black folks in particular, spend a lot of time on Twitter and Instagram, which is fine, but we don't spend enough time upgrading and updating our LinkedIn profiles, where you can get opportunities anywhere. You can find opportunities anywhere. But if that is a business platform and you are a business person or professional, then you would want to have that. Any information you have on your business platform should be updated regularly, and telling the most dynamic story possible.
I love it. Last but certainly not least, what advice do you have for the next generation?
Well, you know what? What I tell people a lot of times. So I feel like millennials and younger folks get a hit a lot of times because the feeling is that they're not serious and that they want instant gratification and they're not focused. And but what I do feel that younger folks are doing well is they're not waiting for validation. And it annoys some of us older folks, but I find inspiration in that like they don't wait for validation. So no one's telling anyone on, who's doing a podcast or, putting together stuff, videos on YouTube, or no one's telling them that they're not pretty enough, that they're not good looking enough, that they're not smart enough. And if they are, it's not stopping anybody from still putting out the content and reaching the people that they want to reach. And so I find that very inspiring by younger people. And then the other thing I would say, and even just to go quickly back to I Kick Ass at Work. So when I put the title together, I had friends who said, you're a professional, you're going to want this book to go into corporate. That's not the title you should be working with. And so I ignored that. So I've learned my lessons. I ignored that and, appreciate any great advice that someone is going to give me. But what I do know is that if you are inspired to do something, which means you dreamt of an idea, you feel like an idea was birthed through your soul, like this thing poured on top of you, or however people get their inspiration. I spiritually believe that is God, the universe, or whomever you bow to, is their way saying that this is your idea and you got to go ahead to do it. Mm-hmm. And so, although things seem tough right now and there seems to be a lot of despair around us, everything is for a time. Mm. And it's really important to find those moments to shut off television, to shut off social media, to shut off your friends, to shut down your phone, mm-hmm. And listen to what your spirit is telling you, because it's always guiding you and it's always providing direction. And it's easy to get your direction from, and it comes from all sorts of places, right? So someone's going to listen to this podcast and be like, oh my God, that was the confirmation I needed. Or someone's going to listen to something else and say that that's the confirmation I needed to receive. But it's also important to shut some of these things down every once in a while so that you can listen from the inside. Everything that you have and need and want to know is on the inside of you and comes from the inside of you. And all you need to, and you will get your validations from some of these external surfaces. But you'll be clear because you've listened to what has come your way. And so I've heard many people say it. I've interviewed, I haven't done a count, but I've been interviewing people for over 25 years at all levels, political folks, international people, celebrities, CEOs, and no one has ever said, I listened to my gut and boy, was I wrong. Like everyone always says, you know what? My gut told me X, Y, and Z, or I felt this thing in my spirit and I followed it, and it's the direction that you needed at the time when you needed it.
Mm-hmm. Say it, Sonia. That's ooh, I got chills. I love it. So thank you so very much for joining us today and just dropping some golden nuggets on us, helping the spirit a little bit, a little inspiration, sprinkling that around.
Yeah. And thank you for having this platform, for allowing me to do that. So many blessings to you and continued success and much continuation in terms of your opportunity to bring different voices to different people.
Yes, thank you.
That's powerful.
And let everyone know the best way to, of course, to get the book. And
so you can, absolutely. So you can follow me at I Kick Ass at Work or Sonia Alleyne on Instagram. I'm Sonia Alleyne on Twitter and LinkedIn and almost any place else. And you can order the book from hunterpublishinggroup.com. hunterpublishinggroup.com. So it's an independent publishing company. I'm very grateful for them for taking a chance on me. This is their first work. And I'm excited to be a part of this burgeoning publishing group as well.
Awesome. Much more success to you. 2020 and beyond.
2020 and beyond.
Yes,
we're
claiming that.
We got this. Yes.
We got this. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys for all of your love and support. Keeping in mind, anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, you look them square in the face, you tell them, don't believe me. Just watch. Watch what I do. Watch me make it happen. Watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for, the history books. Social media is nice, but real life is so much better. Until next time, you guys.